Garden Home blog is made possible by the following sponsors: Gilbert H. Wild & Son, Sun Patience, Arkansas Parks and Tourism, Ralston Family Farms, First Community Bank, and Crystal Bridges Museum of American Art. For more information, log on to pallensmith.com. Now back to P. Allen Smith and the Garden Home blog.
Hey, do you love succulents? I know that's a weird word, but they're great plants. I'm crazy about them. So what we're going to do is we're going to be talking about some of the basic care tips, also how to water these guys, and a wide range of succulents that you can choose from for home decor or even out in your garden. With a name like succulent, you've got to be beautiful, right? I mean, where did they come up with that name? So I don't know about you, but do you name your plants? I do. For instance, this is a jade plant, which is not hardy here, but I love to grow it as a house plant, and I call her Ginger. It's confusing to her because ginger is also a plant, but I name them. I just wonder if you do as well. And some of them have really odd names, like this succulent is one called Blue Chalk Sticks. Who wants to be called Blue Chalk Sticks? So this one's named Frank. So they like it when you talk to them personally. I find my plants grow much better when they get a little special attention and I talk to them when I water them or I play some nice music for them. So this idea of succulent, they've really caught on. People love them. Why wouldn't they? They're interesting shapes, colors, flower forms. I mean, it's just like a whole nother world. It's like they come from another planet, so many of them. And they are one of the easiest plants you can grow. If you can't grow succulents, you just need to hang it up. All right, just forget it, because they are simple, simple, simple. And the thing that I want you to always remember with these, this is a great plant for a beginner gardener. For children, perfect. And they can name them, right? They love to name things. So these particular succulents that I have are out of my collection. They're like pets to me. They're like little friends. All right, so let's categorize the succulents if we can. First of all, they are a wide category. I mean, like 45 genera or something like that, but we don't get too far out into the land of succulent weeds on this. We want to talk about really how to care for them and how to use them. But for the most part, all cactus are succulents, but not all succulents are cactus, okay? For instance, this little guy right here is one you probably know. This is the prickly pear cactus. It is a succulent, and it will grow outdoors. It prefers probably zone 8 south, and it has a beautiful yellow flower on it and a delicious fruit. On the other hand, we have this jade tree or jade plant called Ginger, and she is a beautiful specimen of the jade plant and is very much a succulent. What do these two things have in common? Well, the leaves are thick and juicy. They hold a lot of water, and that's the key, okay? For instance, this agave, which we'll come back to in just a moment, can go long periods of time without water. Now, this is one of the reasons these plants are so easy to grow. But the thing you need to always remember is don't overwater them. That's the #1 killer of succulents in the world today. People are killing them with love. Do not overwater your succulents. It is better to leave them alone. Set them aside. Let them become dry. What you want is that soil to dry completely. You can see this one's pretty dry already. Look, it's happy. Look how happy that succulent is. And what I like to do is just give them a deep soak. Just a deep soak of water about every 2 weeks. That's all you have to do. If you use these little saucers like I'm always telling you to do, because plants, for the most part, will dry out, and most plants don't like to dry out. If you set this and it holds water, you're likely to rot this succulent. Your little friend will die because you have killed it with too much water and love. So the idea is to keep the saucers away from these plants, and you can see how happy they are. I haven't watered this little guy. This is Eugene. This little guy hasn't been watered in 2 or 3 weeks. Look how powder dry that is. Happy little camper. Okay, right, Eugene? Yeah, you're loving it. It's first time on TV, a little shy. Okay, so the idea of using these in decor, I think, is really a lot of fun. I had an idea. I like to repurpose things, and I just want to show you. We took some pallet wood off of a pallet, and they went out in the greenhouse, and we just took pallet wood and drilled a hole the size of the container like this. We could just drop a little 3-inch clay container. Get another one over here. And you could put succulents in these and line them along a dining table. It's a great way to group them in a windowsill. In fact, if they don't get enough light, they're going to stretch. As you can see over here, our friend Blue Chalk Sticks is stretching a little bit. Part of it's because it has a bloom, and these plants do have very interesting flowers. But if they stretch like this, it's a real opportunity for you to go about propagating some of these, increasing the number of succulents that you could have, or share them with a friend. For instance, one of the ways to do this is to just cut one just above a leaf like this, if it's stretched. And what I'll do is pull some of these leaves off like this, just pinch them off, and stick this in some soil. I'm going to move this so you can see. There's a nice aroma to it. Just stick it down in the soil like that. Keep the soil just moist. Now remember, it's trying to put on roots. But these plants will actually put on aerial roots. If you look closely here at ginger, my jade plant, look at these aerial roots that ginger is producing. Now don't think that if you didn't cut it here and stick this in the ground, you wouldn't get a whole nother plant very quickly. All of these, what look like dormant roots, would come alive and begin feeding this piece of ginger. So you'd have a baby ginger. Now, I noticed that I broke off a piece. Where did it go when I moved it? Yep, here it is. So this piece broke off when I brought her into the studio for you to look at. And even this little piece, by taking off the leaves, I can stick this into the soil and ginger will root. You can even take these little leaves and set the little leaf, I do this all the time, and just set the leaf, just lay it on top of the soil, just like that, with it being moist. And very soon you'll see a tiny little plant emerge right here at this node, right at the end of the leaf, which is fantastic. So the point is, it's really easy to propagate and make more of these succulents. I love these agaves. This is agave americana. And this particular one is the variegated form. As you can see, it has these beautiful yellow stripes along that blue glaucous gray foliage. And if you look a little closely here, you'll see under this leaf is a little pup, I like to call them. And what you can do is just dig that out. You'll cut it away from the mother plant. Yeah, and the little guy may suffer a little separation anxiety from mama plant, but this little guy will take off very quickly. Just get a few roots and get it started. And I propagate these a lot because I love to put like one of them in a big urn or a single container. They really make a dramatic show. This brings me to this idea of cold tolerance, or cold hardiness, as we like to say. As I said, succulents, there's a wide range of them. If you live down in South Florida, you can grow jade plant outside, but don't try this in Minnesota. But there are some succulents that will grow in Minnesota. A lot of the sedums will grow in Minnesota. So do your research on which plant you can use outdoors and leave outdoors. Like sedum spectabile, the like autumn joy, has been around forever. That's a wonderful sedum for the garden. For instance, our agaves, we will take those in. They can take down to about freezing, about 34 degrees, but we like to bring them into a hoop house at the farm and let them just rest through the winter. And we don't water them. If you water them while they're dormant, they will rot. And so we have learned to just leave them alone, keep that temperature above freezing, and then we can bring them back out in the spring, and it just works like a charm. It's really, really easy. And so if you've got a place in your garage where you're not going to run into these little points, you might give it a try. So just check on hardiness. Some of the things that I know will take cold temperatures that you're probably familiar with is like the blue spruce sedum that's right here behind me in the studio. It's one of my favorites. Love that blue-gray color. And its cousin, which you may know, is chartreuse. That one is called Angelina, sometimes called, I think they call it lemon coral is another name for it. And it does very well for us just growing along the edge of the beds and borders at the farm and even in containers. So those are a more cold tolerant form of succulent. Now I like to use them in single plantings, like we have all one variety in this container, and then this one is a mixed container. These bowls of sedums look great sitting around on the patio or the porch, and we use them a lot through the summer. Again, you know, if you're going on vacation, you don't have to worry about these little friends. They will take care of themselves when it comes to water. All right, so now let's take a few questions. You guys are so good about asking questions, and each time we do one of these little studio workshops, I want to try to answer as many of them as I can. First one, I think I'm over watering my succulents. How often should I water? Thank you, Linda. Well, we've kind of covered that, right? You want to make sure, I like to just keep the soil dry. Linda, you know, about every 2 weeks, if you just fill the sink with some water and deep soaked them, let them soak and let it set them out and leave them alone, or just, you know, fill them up with water. You may want to put a saucer under it so it doesn't run through, and make sure the soil soaks. And 2 weeks later, give them another drink. Should I use a spray bottle to water my succulents? Says Charles in Virginia. Well, you know, you can mist them. I do find that, you know, misting these youngsters is really, really good. Once you have the soil kind of moist, you can take and get a spray bottle like this and just kind of keep the foliage a little moist while they root in. I find that helps. And then also I find that by using a spray bottle like this, it just kind of washes them off. So this is a good way to add a little moisture, but also it kind of cleans the leaves up, and I think they kind of like it. And the thing to remember is just don't get carried away with misting your little friends, because again, if it gets too wet and you're harboring too much moisture around them, you could cause some issues with fungus and that kind of thing. This is, my succulents are stretching out. What is causing this? What can I do about it? Says Mary. Okay. Typically what that means, Mary, is that they are, like any other plant, they are stretching for light. I don't know if you have them in full sun or not, but they really do need to have, I think, full sun, not to stretch. And what you'll do is you'll begin to see this sort of leaning toward the light, which is, you know, it can be charming and beautiful, but they get a little leggy, and you can cut them off just like I did here. This idea of them stretching for light reminds me of another quality about succulents that I find particularly good and worthy of mentioning, is that they really don't have a lot of pest problems. So you don't have to spray them with any of those nasty chemicals. You know, I'm an organic kind of guy. We have an organic farm, and we don't want to use any kind of synthetic chemicals to kill insects or pests and that sort of thing. So that's another reason to grow these. You rarely have problems with pests. Now, one of the last questions I have here, this is from Jessica, is asking about succulent soil. What you don't want to do is go out in the backyard, and I've said this time and time again, and just dig up soil and stick plants in it, because if you're from our part of the world, you can have a lot of heavy clay, and it makes the pots very, very heavy. What I like to do is just mix my own and do a big batch of it and keep it in a bag, and then as you're potting these up, then you know you've got it at hand. So the recipe is really simple, and sometimes I think it's important to understand why we're doing this. What we want is a very well-drained soil. So if you just start with 2 parts an ordinary potting soil, you add 2 parts sand to it. The coarser the sand, the better, not really fine sand. And then 1 part perlite or pumice. All of these can be bought at your local hardware store. And it's just a simple ratio that you mix together, and you can plant these little guys and they'll respond very well. So you can see why these little guys are so popular, and there's so many ways you can use them. We've talked about beds and containers, but also window boxes. They make really great window boxes, and they're wonderful in just a succulent landscape where you just use all succulents, where you get this contrast of form and shape and texture. Makes it very visually compelling. Well, I hope this little 101 succulents has been helpful to you, and that you'll fill your life with these little guys and name as many of them as you can. If you'd like more information on succulents, you can always check out my website, palensmith.com. Until next time, happy gardening. Ooh, you cute little thing. Look at you. You've had some babies since we last talked.